Thinking of going into business with your spouse? Married couples often hit a hitch when it comes to starting a business together, and it doesn't help when 9 out of 10 businesses fail in the first year. Here in studio with us today, we have a very special couple who have overcome all of these obstacles to build a multi-million-dollar empire right here in Vancouver. Let's talk to Amrit and Ankit Sharma and find out a little bit more. Ankit, Amrit, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, it's really interesting when I heard about your story, how the two of you are a very quiet yet powerful couple, and you do business together. Your story is very unconventional, so let's hear a little bit more about how did you meet?
So we met on a blind date set up through a common friend.
Which is pretty, unconventional in itself. So you met on a blind date. You knew nothing about each other. You knew nothing about each other's backgrounds or business savviness. And so how did you transition from like meeting? You obviously got married, and so walk us through that a little bit.
It's not as easy as said. I think it was a long transition. So we got married in 2009, but we met in 2004. So there's a 5-year gap in between.
Oh, okay.
So
you got to know one another.
We got
pretty
to
well.
know each other quite intimately before we got married. So that was a good experience. Even though we didn't run a business together, we went to universities. So we went to different university, but we worked together in a lot of different aspects. Amrit worked while she went to school, and so did I.
And so you really got to understand and know each other's strengths and weaknesses, what makes each other tick.
Right.
Right?
I think so. I think we got to really know the person in the 5 years that we were together, and when we got married together, we took a step back from our jobs, and so we both quit, and we're married, and we're unemployed, living at my parents' place with my brother and his wife and his daughter.
Oh my goodness!
And we don't have any
Extended
income
family.
coming in. And when we started, we didn't. We found out that Amrit was actually pregnant.
Wow!
So, interesting time in our life.
So you started Amrit, you started the business from home then?
We started in Ankit's parents' basement in late 2009.
So you're pregnant, you're home, living with the in-laws,
Packing boxes.
and exactly. And I mean, it's relatively new to marriage, even though you knew one another. I mean, wasn't it a risk to start a business together?
I think at that point we pretty much had nothing to lose. We had nothing to go on. So it was. We looked at the bright side. There's a part of us that was scared. Terrified actually. We can't barely support ourselves, leave alone supporting a child in a few months. So, but we both are pretty good at looking at the bright side of things, and we're like, you know what, it couldn't get worse than this. So let's do what we think we can do and
Let's
work
try
from
it.
there. Yeah.
Wow. And so, Ankit, speaking about the situation at home it's a tremendous amount of pressure and stress on you. Here, as a man, you're here to provide for your family. You have an unborn child on the way. So how did that feel to you that what was that thought process that went through your mind to start this business?
Yeah, it's a great question, Janita. So starting my own business, especially at the time that I did, was probably the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. Absolute hardest thing. And I'm blessed to have my wife, blessed to have my parents who were supportive at the time, and my brother who said, you know what, you have a job that's paying well, taking care of everything, and I quit all of that to start my own business. So I was really fortunate to have a family support to make that decision. It was tough as a man though.
I can't even imagine. I mean, and you know what, and you as well, Amrit, here you are living at home with your, you go downstairs into the basement, kid on your hip, your in-laws upstairs. I mean, how did you juggle all of that?
Like Ankit mentioned, it was, I think, some real good values that Ankit's parents and family has, and the support we had with them. And it was almost like I couldn't believe it. They were just like, go ahead and try what you can, and you know, and see where you go, rather than, you know, discouraging us. And I almost like, you know, sometimes you don't have faith in yourself, but when someone is there to constantly remind of what you're capable of, that's when you're starting out, is when you really need that support. So we were very, very fortunate to have that.
And so now your business is super successful, and I mean you're a silent power couple, and which is actually really cool because you're young, you're dynamic, you're savvy, you have lots of cash coming in. And it's a very small business that like your operation is only 7 people, you had said, right?
Right.
Including yourself?
Right. Including ourselves.
Ourselves. Yourselves.
Ourselves, yes.
You know, it's not unlike other couples that do start businesses. I mean, a lot of South Asian businesses start off from home with family support, and then they grow from there. So, I mean, kudos to you both for making that happen. I want to switch over to now. I mean, when it comes to you achieving this level of success, now you're philanthropic. You're involved in various different activities and charity work. You've also won lots of awards for your business. The Ethno Diversity Award through the Surrey Board of Trade. I mean, that's amazing that you've been able to cultivate these values within your business and keep those values strong, so that way you can push forward that ladder up that ladder of success. So, I mean, I really want to ask you guys, don't you fight ever?
Not at all. All the time.
So it's interesting working with your spouse, right? You know, because we're together 24/7.
Yeah.
365.
Yes.
I think just saying that out to people. I don't have to say anything else.
I mean, your relationship has got to be incredibly strong. So how do you do it? How do you manage?
I don't think there's a real recipe here. I think the first thing we did, as soon as we decided we were going to go into business together, was we separated the roles. So Amrit was going to be responsible for home, and I will be responsible for work. So there's a clear distinction of who the boss is in different domains.
Right.
Even though Amrit really is the boss in both. But at least in my head, I feel like I'm the boss at work, and Amrit feels like she is the boss at home. So having that distinction, you know, so we recently purchased a house, and we decided, okay, well, how are we going to furnish the place? Where are we going to put the curtains? I don't get involved in any of that.
You actually step back and you allow her to take the reins.
That's not my domain, right? So having that distinction between whose domain a different aspect of your life is really gives that clear differentiation.
Right.
So I don't interfere, even if it's wrong or right. Differentiating between what's being done a certain way in someone's domain is not my problem.
But isn't there a time where, you know, let's say it's in your office, you know, something goes wrong, and, you know, let's say Amrit, being a woman in particular, you know, she would take the emotional side of it, go home, and you come home and it's like you're facing the shut door. Has that ever happened? Like, don't talk to me.
Like last night, you mean? So work goes home, and home comes to work, right? So yeah,
and that happens a lot.
It happens a lot. So you know, so I go to the office, and you know, and Amrit's like, oh, you weren't nice to me last night, I'm not coming in, or vice versa, you know. So it's.
So if there was one piece of advice you would be able to give business owners that are doing business, like couples that are doing business together, what would that be?
I think just defining your roles. Like, we have our domain, and within the domain we have our roles. Like in the business, Ankit is sales. I am accounting, money, whatever related to money. And we learned that very quickly, what our strengths were and how we're going to deal with it.
Excellent.
And we have full faith in each other's judgment in our respective areas of expertise. And you know what? We're not perfect. There's a lot of trial and error. We screw up all the time, but it's not about blame. I think it's, okay, this is done, now what? How can we go ahead and
forward to solutions,
fix it, rather than bickering about the issue you had, or
and harboring that
because this is
negativity inside.
you know, it's we're both learning. 4 years old when we started. I mean,
just incredible. And look at the level of success that you've achieved until now.
So,
I want to thank you both for coming out and for sharing a little snippet about how other people can succeed in business if they're married. I mean, there are going to be hitches.
Absolutely,
That's reality, but it's nice to see that there is a role model that's out there that we can follow in order to move forward in business.
Yeah, it's definitely the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but being in business with my spouse was also the best thing I did in my life. So being patient, being apologetic when you're wrong, and recognizing when you're wrong is also important. So I think that's helped a lot as well.
It is.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, both thank you once again for coming out. Much appreciated.
thank you for having us.
Thank you.